Can you understand me? You're scaring me.
Alright, so I just got out Wolfman a couple hours ago, and I liked it. You know, I was kind of surprised to see the negative reaction it's getting. This is from the same guy who did Invisible Man, and that movie was a modern retelling of a classic Universal horror monster, and it did really well. Had some great commentary to it, you know. It had deep themes. It had interesting camera work. You know, it hit everything it needed to hit, and it hit with the audience, which is why this director is now getting more opportunities to make more films, right? This is a micro budget film. I think any film made for around $20 million these days could be considered micro budget because the last Wolfman film, Benicio del Toro was in that one, was a $150 million production budget, you know, and that movie was a huge bomb. This one is probably going to make its money back, so, you know, I say success. And the fact that it's released in January, it's considered like the toilet bowl season for movies because there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things taking people's attention away, and a lot of studios like to dump their bad movies in January. But with that comes opportunity to make money because people still gotta go to movies. They still gotta see movies. So, you know, if you release a semi-decent film, you might get some money, right? But I'm not really concerned with that, right? I'm not seeing a dollar from this film. In fact, it took $12 for me to go see the film. And I had a good time. I think it was a solid, like, werewolf movie. You know, when I got out of the film, I was seeing the negative reactions. I was already guessing that it was probably getting negative reactions because it's not doing anything that we associate with werewolf movies, you know? The director takes a bunch of swings and, you know, does a bunch of different things. The werewolf transformation is more akin to like some disease that's infecting you. Like think cabin fever, only with the werewolf. And the effects are pretty practical with the transformation scenes and stuff, and it just looks really good. Really gruesome. And that was another thing I was thinking, like maybe people just don't like the werewolf design, and definitely people do not like the werewolf design. Like that is like a thing people keep harping on. And you know, I think it makes sense if it's like a disease that's transforming your body, right? I like the movie. I like the themes it's doing, and I feel like people are kind of missing the point of the movie. This one reviewer, he was talking about the film's about how, you know, an abusive father gets that inherited from his abusive father, and it's a cycle of violence that needs to stop, you know, and that can be an interpretation of the film. I definitely see how people can get to that conclusion by watching the film, right? And that's a great thing about movies. You can have tons of interpretations of whatever you see on that screen, right? My interpretation, I feel, was more, it's a movie about domestic abuse, you know, in a family setting, in a marriage that's on the rocks, you know, a marriage that they're trying to keep together, but there's an underlying theme of some domestic abuse happening. And you don't outright see it with the main character, but I feel like it is implied that he probably had some episode in this marriage where he did lose control, you know, and he's hit somebody or shoved somebody or shoved the kid to the ground, did something, right? You know, our main character, played by a pretty good actor, can't remember his name, you'll look it up. And because I'm not looking it up right now. We're in a stream of consciousness. And he does a great job being relatable and like sympathetic. Like you kind of feel for this guy. Which, you know, if the director didn't want you to feel for him, maybe he would have put in some scenes where we actually see him being really abusive, because the few things we get with this lead actor being abusive is like telling his kid to not like dance on a guardrail that's like next to the street, and he like, it's like, why aren't you listening to me? Get off the fucking guardrail before you get hit by a car or something like that. Like, not what I would consider abuse. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the kid is like, why are you yelling at me? But it's just like, listen to your parents. You know what I'm saying? And there's another moment in the apartment, just like the next scene where the wife is not listening to him. He asks her like nicely a couple times, and um, you could tell that he's getting annoyed. You know what I'm saying? And he's getting angry. It's like boiling up inside of him and stuff like that. But still, he doesn't be abusive. Like he's he's clearly trying to hold something back, which makes me think that he probably did something earlier on that we never saw. And I already feel like this movie was reshot to some extent, or they shot multiple different takes of the same scene, or multiple different scenes that we're not seeing, because you can even tell in the trailer when he writes on the notepad as he's like changing and stuff. The trailer shows the notepad and says changing, and when you watch the movie, the same scene, he actually writes dying on it, as in he's like, I'm dying, like I don't have much longer here. That kind of changes the feeling of that scene from what the trailer showed you. So I'm feeling like there's lots of alternate takes of these scenes, and they probably had a hell of a time in the editing room putting this shit together. It probably was a little bit of a mess. I don't think the movie's as strong as Invisible Man, but I still feel like there's messaging in this movie that people are missing. The domestic violence stuff, I feel like people are missing. Because, this might just be me, but not everybody on the planet is evil. All right, those are like the few psychopaths that are evil. And there's bad people, but I feel like most people are good, and they just get caught in situations they want to be in, or they make mistakes. And the Wolfman has always been like allegory for that, like men who can't control their anger when they get angry. The wolf comes out, what I'm saying? They can't stop it. And sometimes you can see in their eyes that they want to stop, but they can't, I feel like that's the meta messaging that's always been a part of Wolfman, right? Forever. And what this director does with this classic tale is that he puts it in a modern setting with a modern family, and he makes it about domestic abuse, trying to overcome that, because not everybody's evil in those situations. Shit just happens, right? And I feel like definitely in the first part of the movie, you get the sense that, he had probably a violent father, but we never see his father be violent, never see his father beat his child, right? Which, I wonder if the director had scenes of that and he just wanted to make it more ambiguous. He didn't want to really like nail you over the head with the whole domestic abuse stuff, and the father passes it down to the son, because I feel like a lot of people are getting that interpretation that like it's genetic almost, like if your father beats you, you will beat your kid, and it'll just keep going on and on. I don't think that's what the director's going for in the movie. If he was, he probably would have put more scenes that would have hammered that home, or he just cut them out because he just didn't want to be that, that on the nose. And you really feel bad for the main character that's turning into the wolf, because he's not a bad person at all. Like, you can tell he doesn't want, to hurt his family. Like, he's trying so hard to protect them. And there are some, like, very, soul-crushing moments in this movie. It has a lot to do with how he's perceiving the world and how his wife's perceiving the world, and you see the different perspectives in the same scene, which I love about this film, that he did show both sides of what's happening, and that there's a breakdown in communication, right? Which is like, goes back to the whole domestic violence thing, what I'm saying? There's always some breakdown in communication. There's always something that happens that leads to something, I love the look of this film when you see the world from the Wolfman's perspective. It's all these like vibrant colors, and his senses are like going crazy. Like, he can hear a spider crawling on the wall from across the house, right? So his senses are so sensitive that when he hears his wife talk, it's just like he can't comprehend the sound she's making. He can't understand her, which is crushing. In the one scene where she says I love you, he can't understand it. Like, oof, like that that was just like, ooh. I felt so bad for him and her, because she doesn't quite realize that he's gone, but he knows that he's dying. Like, he's already gone. And that's why he writes it on the notepad right there. And I felt like that scene was so beautiful. I feel like that is the big highlight of the moment. And when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about, if I haven't described it enough at this point. But yeah, every time she talks, he can't hear it. Every time he talks, he tries to talk, it comes out like gurgles. Like he can't speak anymore. Which is so sad. It's so sad. But yeah, very micro budget film. This whole thing is pretty much on one location, the house, farm. You got some exteriors of a valley, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I do like how the movie bookends with the valley. You got the father and son looking into the valley at the beginning, and then you got the mother and daughter at the end looking into the same valley. I just like the symmetry. I like the bookending stuff. I don't quite know what it means yet, you know what I'm saying? But like, I feel like if you dig in a little bit more, you'll figure out what it means, you know what I'm saying? There's something to the movie. It's got a few different layers to it. And people are getting harped up on like one meaning of the film when it has several different meanings. And I don't feel like the movie's really taking a stance one way or the other. And even in the last moments of the film where they have to shoot him to stop him, it's like he wants it to happen. And even the daughter, who like can read his mind, right? She's like, he wants this to happen. And you can see it in his eyes too. He's like, just please shoot me, because I don't want to live like this forever, you know. As the Wolfman. Very touching way to end a fucking monster movie, right? I really want this director to try another monster movie in the Universal catalog. We're yet to get a Frankenstein film. Like, so let's do that. Let's do that. I would like that. You know what I'm saying? Let him try that. What I feel like will end up happening with this director is that they'll make a sequel to Invisible Man, and he'll direct that, you know. Like, they're going to go back to the well. Blumhouse has been a little bit of a cold spell, you know. They haven't made like a really big hit in a minute. So, I feel like the audience is kind of turning on them a little bit. Definitely YouTuber critics are, they're definitely swaying the audience on this one. And you could, every thumbnail's the same too. They're all like, or like, like they're like these like disgusting faces, or like this stinks, or like all their headshots in these fucking thumbnails. Oh, so funny. And I'll probably do something similar. But like, you can already tell the zeitgeist is already made up about the movie in the first weekend, and I hate when that happens. Because when we went to the theater, you know, Monday night, probably not the best time to see a movie, but there was 4 or 5 people in the theater with us, and they had a bigger theater. Like they put Wolfman on a screen that had more seats in the theater, and it only had like 5 people in there. So I feel like it's not getting enough recognition, you know what I'm saying? And the lighting in the film's very good too. Like, it's very dark most of the time too, so if you're gonna try to stream this at home, you better be in a pitch black room, or you're not gonna see what the hell's going on half the time. It's a good thing about theaters, they always have the right lighting. I love the lighting in the film too. I just keep going back to it, you know. The way the movie looked. Oh, and the camera angles. Dude, every time he was starting to like transform a little bit, the camera angle would go like this, and it would like kind of go to the side, like not quite tipping over. Like he's not quite like, you know, he's not quite flipping yet, but he's tipping. And the camera tips with him. Little things like that I liked a lot. The camera work was very good. And even at the beginning of the film, like they're getting hunted by the Wolfman, and you see the breath come up in front of them, and then it shows a shot of the dad like looking, waiting for it to pop up, and then the camera tilts over here and looks up, and you see the breath coming from behind the dad. I thought that was a nice little camera touch, you know. Saying it was a nice little touch. They definitely have a lot of suspension in this movie. Maybe not a ton of scares, but the couple scares are pretty good, and there's lots of build up. There's lots of suspense, lots of tension. Especially when he's chewing on his arm. Lots of, body gore too. Well, maybe not lots, but the body gore you get is pretty gory. Nails falling off, chewing through your arm, chewing through your leg like an animal. Loved it. Lots of different things going on in this movie. Enjoyable. I feel like it's a good modern retelling of the Wolfman. There's no silver bullets. There's no full moon that changes him. That kind of lore stuff is not in this movie. But, they could have, easily. They could have been, one line where it's they go to the basement and his dad was making silver bullets to take out the werewolf or something like that. That could have easily been in the movie. But, I feel like they want to drop all that stuff and just make it more, believable. I guess they can go for it. But it is a guy turning into a werewolf. How believable can you get with that? Anyway, I wasn't disappointed by the movie. I thought it was solid. I thought it was better than the Benicio del Toro one. Which one would you rather watch? I'd rather watch this one. It's more personable. It's more of a smaller story, something to latch onto, something more relatable. That's kind of why the Invisible Man movie worked so well. It's because anybody could see that situation happening almost, you know what I'm saying? Or they've seen or experienced something like that in their lives. But for some reason, audiences and critics aren't hitting with this one. I don't know what it is. I like the movie. Anyway, comment below, let me know what you thought of the film. And we'll see you guys in the next one.